Hey there guys, welcome back to my homeschooling channel. My name is Erin and I have 4 kids that I homeschool ranging in ages from 10 down to 4. So I've got a 5th grader all the way down to a preschooler. I also am a certified teacher that has been teaching for 8 years. My oldest 2 kids went to school. My oldest went to public school a couple of years. My second went to a private preschool outside of our home. And then my youngest 2 have been fully homeschooled by me. Obviously, my preschooler is just starting this year. But the others have started with me since 2nd grade, kindergarten, and the other 2 were babies when I started. So with that being said, I know what it's like to take your kids out of the school system and start homeschooling, as well as know what it's like to start from scratch with a toddler or preschooler and jump into homeschooling with them. And so today I just want to share with you how to start homeschooling your kids as soon as possible. When you are not a homeschooler, homeschooling can seem incredibly overwhelming. There's so much information out there, and yet when you're not a part of the homeschooling world, you don't even know how to access all of the information that is out there. Today's video is all about sharing with you the steps for getting started with homeschooling. Number 1, whether you are starting with your preschooler or kindergartner, or pulling your kids out of school during the summer, or pulling your kids out of school during the middle of a school year, the first thing you need to do is know your state's homeschooling laws and regulations. Every state is different. Some states have a lot of freedom and some states have a lot of regulations and a lot of paperwork that you have to submit in order to homeschool. So in order to know what your state requires, the first thing I would do is go to the HSLDA website, which stands for the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, and they have like a graph that shows everything you need to know about your state, where your state falls in those guidelines, and they even offer, with a subscription, they offer help if you ever find yourself in a situation where your state's trying to tell you that you cannot homeschool. So start there. Start with the HSLDA website to find out what your state requires. The second thing I would do when looking at your state's homeschooling laws is go to your state's education website, and that's because they will give you even more detail than HSLDA. So if you find out from HSLDA that your state has some regulations, you go to your state's website, and if you have to fill out paperwork, that's where you're going to find the paperwork. If you have specific requirements, you'll find those listed in more detail there. So you're going to want to go to your state's website, find out the specific requirements so that you can get started on those as soon as possible. Some states have deadlines you have to submit your paperwork by, so make sure you do that first so you don't miss any deadlines, because while we are all about our homeschooling freedoms, we want to do those in a way that will keep our children safe and let our community know that our children are safe. Because as somebody who used to teach public school, I understand why some of those regulations are there in states, because there are people that truly do say they're homeschooling their kids and their kids are in a bad situation. I have seen it happen firsthand. So those guidelines are there to protect children, though I will say some guidelines in some states are very overreaching and overbearing, and I'm very thankful that we are in a state that has a lot more freedoms. Once you know your state's laws and regulations, you know what you need to do, the second thing that I would do in order to help you start homeschooling is join a Facebook group. Now that might seem like an odd thing to say for the second thing you should do, but trust me when I say there is a homeschooling community near you, and this will help you keep connected. This doesn't mean you need to join their group for activities and outings. This doesn't mean you need to even like go out to coffee with any of these ladies. All it does is it shows you how wide the homeschooling community is, how vast it is, and all of a sudden you have these resources at your fingertips that these ladies can point you out to. You can either just kind of creep out on the Facebook page and see what other moms are posting about homeschool curriculums, homeschooling questions, homeschooling plans, or you can type in your own little question, and there are moms that have gone before you that are so happy to help. You can also post a question to the leader of that group. I know in my area, the leaders of our homeschool groups, there are many homeschool groups on Facebook in our area that serve different purposes, but the leaders of those groups are actually very, very knowledgeable women. They know their curriculums, they know their laws, they know what's available to you in your area, so utilize that. And it's also a great way if you are less introverted, if you are looking to get out there a little bit, it's a great way to meet some of the other homeschoolers in your area, maybe look at some co-ops that are in the area, maybe look at some gatherings, or even just plan a play date with one of these moms that seems to have similar values and goals to what you do. So that is a great way to just dip your toes into the homeschool community, because they all are really there to help you out. They would love to help you. The third thing I would do if I were starting to homeschool now is I would then start looking at curriculums. That's why that group is so helpful, is they can point you to curriculums that would fit your homeschooling style and your needs. Some families look heavily into online programs, and they can point you to those if that's the style of homeschooling you want to do. I will tell you, if you decide to go with online schooling, they're going to want you to sit down at certain times, be submitting things at certain times. You can't fall behind. You will have live classes at certain times. You have to communicate within a certain range of days. There are parameters around that, and that might be what you need to get your foot in the door. So that is an option. There's free versions, there's versions that pay. But if you're in a more regulated homeschooling state, that might be your comfort level, because they will take care of those things for you. But you cannot control the curriculums that you're going to use or anything like that. Your second option, if you're looking into curriculums and options, there are what's called hybrid programs, where you can choose from a variety of curriculums, but you're still submitting all of your work to the state. Most of the time the state is paying for those curriculums, but they really limit the curriculum choices that you have. And again, you're submitting to them, you're communicating with online teachers, and there's hoops you have to jump through the government. So a lot of homeschoolers would even say that those options are not actual homeschooling. I give a little bit more grace than that. We have these options out here to help us get started, and some of these options really are the best for those families. And then of course the third would be traditional homeschooling. That's what we do. That's when you are choosing all of your curriculums yourself, and you're getting to pick and choose exactly what works for your family, when you do your schooling, etc. Definitely back to checking your homeschool laws. Your homeschool laws in your state could prevent you from using certain curriculums, so that's why you need to know those first. But once you start diving into curriculums, that again can be very overwhelming. Ask a friend in the homeschool community, ask the Facebook group, what have you guys used? What has been great for your family? What hasn't been great for your family? Those questions will really help get you started on where to look. There are tons and tons of curriculum companies. Definitely do your research, because you don't want to jump into something and then, you know, a couple $100 later you realize that it's not going to work for your family. So I've got lots of other videos on curriculums we've used, things we don't like, things we do like, so make sure to check those out. Hopefully that makes you feel less overwhelmed about the choices that you are making for your family. There are also lots of free curriculum options out there. Like I said, there's free curriculum through those hybrid schools and the online schools, but those come with strings attached, and that's similar to these free curriculums that you will find online. Sometimes there's strings attached, and sometimes they will leave gaps in your child's education. So those are great things to use as supplements or to get you started for the first month or two, but definitely find a full curriculum to use once you have established a homeschooling rhythm of sorts. The main thing I want to emphasize when finding curriculums is that you do not need to find a curriculum for every subject right away. Take your time, keep it simple, especially if you have young kids. You really, and I mean really, only need to start with math, language arts, and some books to read aloud to your child. That's it. Start slow, work in one subject at a time. I would recommend just starting to read some books from your local library to your kids, and as you do that, maybe you go to Teacher Pay Teacher or supersimpleworksheets.com and find something that goes along with those books, or a simple free math worksheet to just get you started. Once you've done that, you can take that time while your children are doing those things to look further into homeschool curriculums that will help your homeschooling be as beautiful and as simple and as pain-free as possible. The fourth thing I would do when starting to homeschool my kids is to arrange my schedule around homeschooling. And listen, hear me out. Homeschooling your child just became the most important thing you are doing each day. I am saying this because I've seen this time and time again, especially with parents of older kids, and by older I mean 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grades, that think, oh, I'll homeschool my child when I get off of work. My child will be home by themselves all day, and then I'll come home and homeschool them in the evenings. That doesn't work. You will have a lonely child, you will have a depressed child. I've seen it time and time again. It's not a good option. Your child would be better off in public school than they would be with that as the option. I'm telling you right now. Now, that's not to say that you couldn't have a loose work from home schedule with your child at home with you and homeschool later in the afternoon. That's a really great option. Or your child could spend the afternoon with a babysitter or with grandma, and then you do your homeschooling at a different time of the day. Those types of things work, but you need to have a plan for what time of day you're gonna do your homeschooling, and you need to try to stick with that for a while and make it a priority, because I'm telling you right now, if it's not one of the most important parts of your day, it's not going to go well for you, and it's not going to go well for your children. The next advice I would give for beginning to homeschool is knowing why you started. Write it down. Did you start because you had a group of friends that were starting to homeschool and it sounded like a good idea and you're just going to try it out? Did you start because you had a problem with a teacher at the school or some of the kids in your school and you wanted your child separated from those things? Or is it something like, this is a way of life for my family that I'm choosing because of this reason, and this reason? Write it down, because there are going to be days that you are going to second guess yourself, and you need to remember why you started so that you have the determination to keep going. There is a sign hanging in my living room that I actually got the same year that I started homeschooling, and it says, "Don't dig up in fear what you planted in faith." And there was a lot of times my first year homeschooling and the summer before I started homeschooling that I looked at that sign and reminded myself of why I started to homeschool in the first place. And it kept me going. So I'll get into my why in a different video, but know your why. Why am I doing this? Why do I think this is the best choice for my child and my family? And how is that gonna keep me motivated on days where it seems like all is lost? But that goes into my next point. Once you start homeschooling, give it time. Give it time. It's not going to be easy. You're gonna have days where you're not going in it with a good heart. Your kids are gonna have days where they're not able to focus, where they're gonna say they hate it, when really those are just the emotions of a hard day. So my recommendation, honestly, would be to give homeschooling 2 years, which I know to some people that are like, oh, we'll just try this out for a minute. That might sound like a lot, but your whole first year of homeschooling is a lot of trial and error. A lot of seeing if this works or if that works. A lot of, flopping your routines to see if something different is the ticket to making everything work better. If your kids have been in public school, there's going to be some deschooling of them and of you, of like what a day should look like, how busy it should be, how slow it should be, etc. So I would recommend going for 2 years, actually getting into a good system for your family, and then seeing, is this a lifestyle that our family wants to continue? So to sum it up, number 1, know your state's homeschooling laws and regulations. Number 2, join a Facebook group or a community like that so that you can ask questions, you can learn from ladies that have gone before you, and just kind of see what other families are doing, because they can open you up to a whole world of resources you weren't even aware were there. Number 3, choose your style of homeschooling and then choose your curriculums. Know if you're going to go the online route, the hybrid route, the traditional route, and there's lots more like intricate styles from there that I didn't get into in this video, because honestly, if you're just getting started, that's kind of overwhelming, and start simple. And then number 4, arrange your schedule. Homeschooling just became one of the top priorities in your life, and you need to make sure that you make the time to give your kids a consistent schedule so that they thrive and you thrive and your family thrives. Number 5, know your why. Know why you started so you know why you're going to continue. And last but not least, begin. Be simple but consistent. Just read some books, just watch some documentaries, just find some free resources as you research what works best for your family. And like I said, give that time. If you are being consistent with a simple schedule and you stay consistent and you give it time, I promise you are going to have a successful homeschooling experience. Well, those are all of my tips for how to start homeschooling today. Let me know below if you have any questions, and I'd be happy to answer them as soon as I can. Homeschooling can be so overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. Let me know if you need any help, and I'm happy to offer that. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe below and like the video so I can continue making more content like this, and I'll see you next time. God bless. Bye. We got nowhere to be,
Just a slow dance with the summer.